المولى ونعم النصير ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبين الظالمين مدرك الحاربين والصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marzia, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, arwahun al-fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. Our discussions have been centered around the reason or the reasons that led to the killing of Abu Abdullah. What was it within the akhlaq, within the morality of those individuals that it took them to the extent where they were willing to kill the Imam of their time, even though they recognized him, even though they understood who he was? The vast majority of people, they knew who the Imam was, they understood the rights of the Imam, but even then they chose not to join with the Imam. Those letters that come from the people of Kufa to Abu Abdullah, they're of two sorts. Two sets of letters come. The first set of letters are those that come from the majority of them being the true followers of Ahl al-Bayt. There were three groups of people within Kufa. The first group were the true followers of Ahl al-Bayt. They were the smallest group. When they heard of the death of Muawiyah, they wrote to Abu Abdullah. The second group were those individuals that were in the middle. They didn't have the conviction so much to be the innovators or the leaders of that particular movement. Rather, they waited for people like Habib ibn Madahir, Muslim ibn Awsaja, Hani ibn Arwa to go and meet with them and convince them. So that was the second group. The third group of people were those individuals that were the opportunists. These individuals had no inclination towards Abu Abdullah, and they just saw the opportunity and they pounced on that opportunity. The first set of people are the ones that write the letter first, and those letters are signed by people like Habib ibn Madahir. These are the true Shi'as of Ahl al-Bayt. They say to the Imam, we desire for you to come and to lead us and to take us towards truth and haqq, and all of this is about the akhirah. And the second set of letters that come are from the opportunists. These individuals that now don't really want or don't really love Ahl al-Bayt, but they see that Muawiyah has died and Yazid is worse, and they don't want to be any party to Yazid. Rather, they think that they could get into a government with Abu Abdullah. Now these letters that come are purely full of dunya. They talk to Abu Abdullah, they say, the grass has become green, the rivers are flowing, the land has become ripe for you. See how they're selling the dunya to the Imam. The first set of letters that come are about the akhirah. We want you to guide us. These opportunists, they're talking more about the dunya. Oh, the land is ready for you, the people are ready with, it's all coming together. It's purely about the dunya. And when Imam receives all of these letters, he writes a general reply to all of them. He says, your letters have reached me from Hani and your messenger. And then the Imam begins to explain to them that who is an Imam. In this letter that we very often or more than likely have never read but cry over it all the time, in this letter Imam highlights what the characteristics of an Imam are. He highlights what is the purpose of an Imam. And so here now in 4 points the Imam highlights. He says, فَلَعَمْرِ مَا الْإِمَامِ إِلَّا الْعَامِلُ بِالْكِتَابِ وَالْعَابِسُ وَالْعَامِلُ بِالْكِتَابِ وَالدَّائِنُ بِالْحَقِّ وَالْآخِذُ بِالْقِسْطِ وَالْحَابِسُ نَفْسَهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ اللَّهِ. He says that you should know that none is the Imam but the one that is Amilu bil Kitab, that orders from the book of Allah. The second characteristic is Wal Akhidhu bil Qist. He is the one that establishes justice and follows justice himself. Wada'inu bil Haqq. And he is the one that follows the true religion and establishes the religion. Wahabisu nafsahu ala dhatillah. And he has annihilated his own self within the dhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has lost all his own desires for the desires of his Lord. And then the Imam says, Wassalam. This is that letter that the Imam sent. The society at that time was split in two groups. It was a society that was either for the Imam, understanding the Imam. These individuals came from Kufa and they joined Abu Abdullah. Or then the second part was the group of people that were obsessed with the dunya. That even when they tried to call the Imam to guide them, it was because of their love of the dunya. Nothing else. The second characteristic, and by far one of the most important ones, is Hubb al-Dunya. Hubb al-Dunya, the love of the world. And we'll come to this in the last lecture as being one of the characteristics that we look at. Today I want to look at one other characteristic that is linked to Hubb al-Dunya, that comes from Hubb al-Dunya, that arguably is something that we can instantly implement within our lives. When Sayyid al-Shuhada, after giving many khutbahs in Karbala to the people, eventually he says to them, I don't know why my words are having no effect on you. No matter how much I say to you, you don't listen. Then the Imam says to them, the reason is for this, قَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. There is food of haram in your stomach. Food is so integral to one's spirituality. What one eats, how much one eats, when one eats. All of these three ideas focus and they affect a person's spirituality and a person's movement towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes even apparent halal food can cause spiritual defect for us. You see, there are two things here. We have fiqh, jurisprudence, and then we have akhlaq. What I'm speaking to you is more of akhlaq. Fiqh is that thing, if you follow what your marja says, you follow the rulings of the maraja, you follow the halal and the haram, it will allow you to enter into heaven. Akhlaq is that thing that will allow you to ascend in the realms of heaven. Following fiqh, black and white, let me explain to you. Fiqh, black and white, says a mixed gathering of men and women. If the women are observing their hijab, proper hijab, not, our cultural dupatta on the head and hair showing. No, proper hijab. Proper hijab where not a single hair is shown, where up until the wrists they're covered, and that even according to Ayatollah Sistani, even their feet are covered, that even that cannot be shown, and the shape of the body is not seen. That's proper hijab. And if the men are observing their hijab as well, the hijab of the eyes, and the hijab also of not free laughing and joking with each other, he says if all this hijab is all maintained, then your mixed gathering is okay. This is what fiqh says. Akhlaq says something else. Akhlaq says, but what if there is the possibility that a haram thought comes to my mind? So fiqh says it is fine. Akhlaq says no, avoid it. The possibility of haram. And it is this very same akhlaq. It is these small nuances, these minutiae of our spirituality that are the defining factors between whether a person recognizes the imam or does not. That akhlaq, that a person has, that morality, that ethics, the way a person thinks, because akhlaq transcends beyond many things. It's not just, you know, the Quran in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the stages within which a person develops. So he first says, don't do ghibah. Who would desire to eat the flesh of your dead brother? Yeah? Says don't do ghibah. Don't raise your voice in front of the voice of the Prophet. Do not call out to the Prophet from outside his house. All of these things are all physical. Then he goes one step further. As it progresses, now he says, do not think ill of another person. Do not think ill of another person. And when we're questioned in the grave, and when we're questioned on Yawm al-Qiyamah, we will also be questioned on our thoughts. That you had this thought about this person at that time. You thought about this. Our thoughts, actions are really easy to control. Someone comes in, I don't really like him, I just sit there. No, fine. Alhamdulillah. In my mind, I wish you were dead. Yeah? That I wish you were dead, in my mind that I thought only I had, I'll be questioned. Why were your thoughts not pure? The urafa, those that know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those that are close to Allah, the awliya of Allah, their thoughts are pure. When Imam al-Sajjad in Munajat al-Arifin begins to explain the characteristics of the urafa, he doesn't say, Allah, make me an arif, make me like this. No, he explains something else. He says, Allah, place me amongst those people. There are 2 points here. We'll come to both of them. It says, place me amongst those people, O Allah, whose thoughts are pure even when they're alone. Whose thoughts are pure even when they're alone. This is the height of spirituality. This is the height of the closeness of Allah. I can keep my thoughts pure when I'm here in front of you. But when I'm alone, what is it that passes through my mind? Do I have suspicion about people? Do I think ill of people? Someone comes to speak to me, I say, why is this person speaking to me? What do they want from me today? What is their agenda? And so this suspicious mind begins to work. This comes from a disease within quwwat al-wahmiyya, the power of imagination that exists within a person. If it's in imbalance, it can either lead to a person being jahil, or it can lead to a person becoming very suspicious of everything. And especially when there's been some sort of issue, we don't learn to let go. We can't let go. And Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, when Imam Sajjad is speaking about the muttaqeen, he says, Ilahi albisni zinat al-muttaqeen fi bast al-adl wa kadhm al-ghayth wa itfa' al-na'ira wa dhumma ahli al-furqa. He says, oh Allah, clothe me in the clothing of the muttaqeen. Through what? Fi bast al-adl, through the establishment of justice. So he begins to list 22 characteristics he lists. Don't worry, I'm not going through all of them today, inshallah, for another day. Says, fi bast al-adl, they establish justice. Wa kadhm al-ghayth, they swallow their anger. Not just swallow their anger. Wa itfa' al-na'ira, they remove the flame of hatred. They don't even hate people. They don't hate anyone. If they hate for the sake of Allah, not for their own personal desires. Not because this person said to me. They hate only for the sake of Allah. وَإِطْفَاءِ النَّارِ وَضَمُّ أَهْلِ الْفُرْقَةِ. They bring together the people that have disunited. These are the muttaqeen. They bring together the people that have disunited. Now, how is it that we can be amongst the muttaqeen? We go back to Munajat al-Arifin and we realize that Imam al-Sajjad is not saying, Allah make me like this, make me like this. And here in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, he's not saying that make me like this. He says, clothe me in their clothing. Make me close to them. Make me connected to them. Here he's saying, place me amongst them. That means the company that you keep has huge influence on your spiritual development. The company, the friends that you have will either take you to hell. The Quran says, some people will be being dragged to hell. They will turn around, say, Ya laytani lam attakhid fulanan khalila. How I wish I hadn't taken this person to be my friend. Because of him, today I'm going to hell. Because of my friends, I'm going to hell. Because of members that I thought were true people, who I thought were right, and I didn't want to think for myself, I'm being dragged to hell today. So if I want to improve myself, the first thing that I need to do is improve my company. Improve the people that surround me. When my company is good, when my friends are those that, you know, the Hawariyun, they asked Nabi Isa, Ya Ruh Allah, man nujalis? Oh, the Ruh, Spirit of Allah, says, who should we sit with? Nabi Isa says that sit with those people who, when you look at them, they remind you of Allah. When you hear their voices, when you hear their words, it reminds you of your akhirah. Their actions remind you of Allah. Their faces, it reminds you of Allah. And they remind you of your akhirah. Now I look at my own friends. How many of those friends are those that remind me of my akhirah? Or are they the friends that stop me from praying? If they're the friends that stop me from praying, they will take me to hell. If they are the friends that when I'm with them, I feel more inclined towards Allah. I feel like I shouldn't swear, or I shouldn't say anything, or I shouldn't say this. They might get offended. I shouldn't do this ghibah. They should be your best friends. Who is it that I allow my children to be friends with? That's every non-Muslim or every non-Shia? Or is it that I want my children to be raised in the love of Ahl al-Bayt? If I want that to happen, then their friends, their closest circle, must be from amongst the lovers of Ahl al-Bayt. When they grow up amongst the lovers of Ahl al-Bayt, that seed takes root in their heart. How can we expect for people to go outside? You know, Nabi Nuh's son, you know, he's the son of the Nabi of Allah. He has everything primed for him. But yet his friends, the society with which he surrounds himself. Having or choosing our friends, friend selection is very important. It wasn't a point I wanted to discuss, but now that it's come up, I'll finish this point. And that is, how do I select my friends? Never ever select your friends thinking on the basis that I'm better than this person. Certain people surround themselves with people that always do wah-wah to them. Yeah? Oh, you do such nice clothing. Oh, how nice is your car. Oh, you're so good. Da, da, da. Praising a person to their face is how we create monsters. It's how we create monsters. Not just amongst ourselves. Even amongst us speakers and scholars and people. Constantly praise, 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 praise. Eventually I think, ha ha ha, I am the one. Now if you want me, you're going to have to pay thousands. Now if you want me, I want this, 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 and you fly me in like this. Because why? You fed the monster. Then we sit back, why does he keep on charging so much? Or why does he have so many high demands? Well, you created the monster in the first place. This is why Islam says don't praise a person directly to his face. Because this disease of pride is so deadly. It is so deadly. Tomorrow's lecture we'll talk about pride. So deadly that it will annihilate a person in an instant. A person that has one sand grain's worth of pride in their heart will never enter Jannah. One of the Urafa was asked that what is the lowest form of pride? He said, even if you're proud on the shoelaces in your shoes, you will never enter Jannah. You can pray as much as you want. Says even 1 ounce of pride over your shoelace, you will never enter Jannah. That's how destructive pride is. Tomorrow. So if I surround myself with people that praise me, that talk about how great I am, they're not helping me, they're dragging me to hell. Because I start to believe the lies I'm being told. Or I start to, it's true, it might be true. But I start to now dwell on it, and it starts to build within me. So they say when you're looking for your friends, look for people who you know that they are better than you in certain things. You say, you know what, I get angry, but I've never seen this guy angry. He's always calm. Stick with him so I can learn that patience from him. I find someone who, I know I pray my salah, but I find someone who prays on time. I want to be that person. Go and become friends with them. I know I pray on time, but I know there's someone who prays Salatul Layl. I want to be with that. Go with that person. I want to gain knowledge. Go with that person that you know that is better. Never ever think of yourself better than anyone. Whenever you look around your friends, look at yourself and think, you know what, this friend of mine is better than me in this aspect. I've never heard him do ghiba. I've never seen him get angry. I've never seen him tell a lie. And then I constantly look at myself. This is why the dua is there. Allahumma dhalla nafsi fi nafsi. Allah humiliate me within myself. Don't let me raise myself by one atom. Pride will destroy a person. And those friends that surround me, that constantly pump me up, they will destroy me. I need to find friends that will bring me and ground me to the world. You know, sometimes I listen to speeches and I like them. It makes me feel great. But at the end of it, what have I gained from it? There are others that offend me, that hurt me. Most of the time we get offended, why? Because I have pride in something. A person who has pride will become offended. A person that is not mutakabbir will never become offended. You can say whatever you want, they don't get offended. Why? Because they've destroyed themselves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have nothing to be proud of. Not pride. There's no pride there. You only get offended when you're proud. You know, if someone, you think that you're really strong and someone says, you know what, I thought you were supposed to be really strong. Forget this, pass it here, let me do it for you, yeah? You get offended. Why? Because you had pride in your strength. Or you had pride in your good looks. Then now when someone says in front of you that someone else is better looking, you get offended. Why? Because the takabbur is there. So I only ever get offended. I only ever get angry when it affects my own nafs. Outside of that, all anger and everything is not jaiz. Pride isn't jaiz. Anger is jaiz only in instances for the sake of Allah, for the religion of Allah. That's it. We get angry over what? Not things that are wajibat, things that are mustahabbat. We forget about the wajibat, the things that we should, you know, people destroying our aqa'id, people destroying the future of our children, the colonialization of this society. I'm so shocked when I look around, like I'm here in Mumbai and I don't want to offend anyone, but the amount of English that is spoken. The British left, independence was gained, but they still colonized the minds. By maintaining, look, some of the brothers was telling me that there are people not in this community, but that live in Mumbai, that have grown up in Mumbai all their lives, but they can't speak Urdu or Hindi or Gujarati or anything. No other language, only English. This is colonization of the minds. This is how you colonize a nation without even being there. You change their thought process and you make them slaves of your way of life. You make them slaves of your clothing. You make them slaves of your brands. You make them slaves of what you eat. You control what they eat. You control what they drink. You give them a lifestyle. This is marketing. Those that are in marketing will know. The perfect marketing model is what? Not you don't sell the product. You sell a person the lifestyle. You never buy a car for the inherent value of the car. When they sell you the car, they're selling you the lifestyle. The guy that's in the suit, the very relaxed, is nice and cool in the heat outside. You want to be that guy. That's why we never derive satisfaction. We always think that we're going to be happy by buying these things. And we buy them, and then we're never really happy because they haven't given us the lifestyle that we want, and we end up depressed. In marketing, this is what you do. You sell to a person a lifestyle. You look at many adverts. For example, look at adverts that you see, commercials on TV. Cologne, aftershave is one. You never see the bottle until right for a few seconds until the end. 1 or 2 seconds, even a millisecond at the end. What's before that? The lifestyle. So you're not buying it for the smell. You've bought the lifestyle. You want that house, you want that suit, you want that woman. And they sell you that, then you wear the cologne. Then you buy the cologne. This is how you colonize the minds. Whereas you try and tell people, everything Indian is no good, come buy British. Yeah, you see even here, I was looking at a bottle of mineral water the other day here. It says, Australian certified. And now double the price, because it's Australian certified. What does that even mean? But this is how you colonize minds. Where you remove the pride, or you remove that level of self-respect that a person has, and you tell them you're worthless, everything outside is better for you. And then what happens? You take away their language, you take away their clothing, you take away their culture, and what's left? You make them subservient to the powers outside. Beware of this. That there are various factions, various powers that work within your society that are looking to make your society and rip the moral fabric from society. Morality is naturally inclined towards Allah, but it's ripping that morality from society and making society more and more inclined towards the ways of the devil. See, this is the colonization of minds. You don't even need to be there. You just start a new product and then you have everyone mass follow. You have this mass following just because it happened in England or just because it's happened in America. And this is what happens in the East. Because there's this colonization of the minds. And then what do? We don't want to incline ourselves towards education. We're fine at this level. There's no academics. You know, how many PhD professors do we have? How many professors in universities do we have? How many people do we have in high government positions? We don't. Because we've been colonized in such a way to say, no, it's fine. You work, do your business, go, it's fine, it's great. But don't become a thinker. Don't think. And anyone that thinks or gives us something contrary, we become very protective. So no, we've done this for centuries. Who are you to come and tell us something on the contrary? So what I'm saying is, there has to be this open-mindedness. What colonization does is it closes our minds. It closes our minds, and then it gives us something to fight about, and we don't realize that the rest of the world exists, that there's a sea of knowledge outside. And all we do is worry about this point. All we do is worry about this singular point, and we live in a bubble, and we don't want to come out of this bubble. So how do we get ourselves out of the bubble? We can start going and meeting with people who we know that are more inclined, their minds are more open, so that I can open my mind. Remove that anger, remove that pride, and actually want to learn. Look to learning. Seek knowledge. Very often we hear people, especially like in Muharram and stuff, when people start coming up and they say riwayats that we haven't heard. Yeah? And by the way, if you pick up the maqtal, I guarantee you, half of what we hear in our Indo-Pak Majalis, you would be shocked. The maqtal is the narration or the narrative of Karbala. And there are maqatil that have been written from the point just after Karbala, the first 300 or 400 years after Karbala. Maqatil that have been written by companions like Abi Mikhnaf. Abi Mikhnaf is a companion of Imam al-Sajjad. Imam narrates to him what happened in Karbala. There are things, there's the Maqtal of Hamid ibn Muslim. Hamid ibn Muslim, you hear his name. Hamid ibn Muslim is a person that was sent to document what happened in Karbala. There are certain things that were there. Pick up a Maqtal and read it. I urge you. There's the Maqtal of Muharram. Read the Maqtal of Lahuf. Go for the Maqtal of Abi Mikhnaf. These are Maqatil that were written and that have been ratified. And look in there what is written. Nafs al-Mahmum of Allama Majlisi. All of these are in English, so I'm guaranteeing you they're most likely in Urdu as well. But they were written in Farsi or Arabic. So if you can't read Urdu, then the English is there. If you read Urdu, the Urdus are definitely present there. So these are the Maqtals. Read them, understand them, open our minds to what happened in Karbala. This is just a small example. This is just a small matter of history. It doesn't really affect us in any way, shape or form, but it's an example that we can all relate to. Then it comes to the aqaid. Now go and learn the aqaid. What do we mean by tawheed? What is it meant by this rububiyyah, this total rububiyyah that Allah holds? Then understand when people say things like Ali Rabb, why they're mushrik. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran himself, we read the Quran, but we don't read it. Quran for us is the book of the dead. Yeah? We open it only when someone dies. We have Quran, by the way, everywhere. Phone. For what? Barakat. Okay. We have Quran hanging in our rear view mirror in the car. For what? Protection. Baba, read it. That's what's going to protect you. Read Ayatul Kursi before you leave, you'll be protected. Read Mu'awazatain, Falaq and Surat Nas, you will be protected. Just by hanging it. It's not going to protect you. But what have we've become ritualistic. We've become this nation of, I just hold on to this thing and it'll be okay. No, it requires action. It requires us to actually act and follow in that way. So, changing the company that we keep, changing our sources of knowledge, looking and delving deep into the religion. Why are we so passive? If your only source of knowledge is the mimbar, we're destroyed. We're finished. Because in 45 minutes to an hour, I cannot give you the 6 hours of research I've done to give you this 45 to an hour. Yeah? I can't give you everything. I'm here for 4 nights, 5 nights. I don't know everything to be able to give you everything. So it requires everyone to do their own research. This is why the Quran says, Ku anfusukum wa ahlikum nara. Save yourself and your family from the fire of hell. Leave everyone else. Save yourself first, then your family. If you can save yourself and you can save your family, you've saved society. If everyone does that. If everyone focuses on themselves and stops pointing fingers at others or what others do, society itself, we'd have no problems. We'd have no issues. We'd have no disunity. We'd have no falling out. Because I'm focused on myself, not on others. So one of those ways is through friendship. A point I didn't want to go into today, but I've already gone into it. What I wanted to talk about was this line of Sayyid al-Shuhada in Karbala. He said, قَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ إِلَى الْحَرَامِ. Your stomachs have been filled with haram. That's why my words are having no effect on you. Come to our time. We need to recognize an imam. We need to know what our imam wants from us. We need to be able to hear the call of the imam and have the courage to be able to go by his side. But Sayyid al-Shuhada has given us a formula in Karbala to tell us that there are certain individuals whose voice, who will have the Ma'soom imam in front of them. And the Ma'soom imam will be giving them khutbah after khutbah, nasiha after nasiha, but no one is willing to listen. And one of the reasons for that is their stomachs are filled with haram. When it comes to halal, let's look at the halal first. The amount we eat will affect our spirituality. We overeat and then we start getting lethargic. We don't want to pray, we get tired, I'm going to sleep and then I'll pray. Classic example of this is Shahr Ramadan. Don't eat the whole day. Then all of a sudden I get really desperate in the last 2 minutes before adhan, and I can't even pray now. I just need to eat. And then I eat, and then I'm like, oh God, I can't move. And then I'm just going to lay there, you know. You see that picture that goes around every Ramadan of the Arab guy with the big mountain for a belly, and he's just lying out like this next to, you know, a big tal next to him, and he's just out. Yeah? Because we overeat. Now overeating itself will cause lethargy within a person. It won't allow the person to be that spiritually strong. It makes you weak. It won't let you stand up to pray Salatul Layl. Overeating. Amir al-Mu'mineen in his letter to Imam al-Hassan says to him, my son, I will give you 3 pieces of advice. If you follow these 3 pieces, you will never need a doctor in your life. The first piece of advice is, my son, only eat when you are hungry. Only eat when you're hungry. What do? Our nafs al-lawama, our nafs the shahwa within us, that the nafs of desire within us, we see some food and we think, I'm not really hungry, but I could eat. Yeah? I'm not really hungry, but I could eat. You know, I mean, if I don't eat it, someone else is going to eat it, right? So then I go and I start eating it, even though I'm not hungry. But because that quwwat al-shahwiyya is so out of control within myself, I can't control myself to stop eating it. Even though I know I don't need it. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the first thing is, my son, only eat when you are hungry. And stop eating, second advice, stop eating while you're still hungry. So eat only when you're hungry. Stop eating when there's still a gap in your stomach. You don't need to fill it to its capacity. Yeah? It doesn't need to fill to its capacity. He says fill 2/3, leave 1/3 empty. Leave 1/3 empty. And then the third thing that he says, and before you go to sleep at night, make sure you empty your bowels. Make sure you go to the toilet before you sleep at night. He says, you do these 3 things, my son, you will never need a doctor in your life. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen saying. So he says, first and foremost, is that control the amount that we eat. This is the first step. The thing can be halal. But overeating of halal will cause a slowing down in our spirituality. The second thing is the overeating of meat. Too much meat will cause a person to fall, or will cause a person's heart to become hardened. The Holy Prophet says, the one that eats meat for 40 days in a row, his heart will become hard. That means that person cannot cry now when they hear the Musa'ib of Abu Abdullah. They don't feel any pain when others are suffering. They can't cry when they're doing dua. They can't cry when they think about their sin. Because the excessive meat is halal. It's halal. The excessive meat that they're eating has hardened their heart. It says for 40 days, if you eat meat every single day, it's a big problem for you. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, don't make your stomach the graveyard of the animals, that you eat so much meat. Then the Holy Prophet continues. He says, and the one that has not eaten meat for 40 days has caused himself huge loss. So what do we understand from it? That meat should be reduced in our diet and the amount of vegetables that we eat increased. The reduction, excessive eating of meat will slow down a person spiritually as well. So we just, we can't even sit down unless there's meat. Astaghfirullah, someone, gives us something without meat. Yeah, have you ever seen, have a guest come around your house and then you give them dal? No one does that. Because we think of dal as something lowly. Yeah, I think we have to give them some gosht. They have to make sure we... And this itself, is interesting because of how we like to present ourselves. How we like to present what we're doing. We want others to think that we're better than we actually are. Yeah? We have this whole idea. I was giving some brothers an example. I said within the Indo-Pak subcontinent we have this type of mentality, which is different to many other places in the world. And that is, if you go to the other parts of the East, you go to Iran, you go to Iraq, these places, and then you look at specifically the Indo-Pak subcontinent, you find just in houses there's a difference. The thing is that in those other places or wherever else, I'm not saying that these places are like our ideals. Don't get me wrong. I'm giving you a cultural difference to highlight a very specific disease that we have. Not because we've willingly done it, but it's this culture and the society that we've grown up in that has allowed it to take root within ourselves. So you go to these other countries and what do you see? See houses that are broken and messed up, but you go inside and the houses are really nice. They're done up really nice. So, but your house looks horrible from the outside. So yeah, no, I don't care what people think of it from the outside. I'm living here, this is what I need inside to be, I need it to be comfortable and the money to be spent here. Whereas what do? We do the opposite. We first of all get the outside of the house looking absolutely amazing, so the neighbors know, mashallah. And then we even sometimes write a plaque of mashallah, or hadha min fadli rabbi, or alhamdulillah, or subhanallah, outside. Inside, still cement everywhere, haven't got the money, haven't got the budget for the plastering yet. But outside is done, at least my neighbors think now, mashallah. And this is the mentality. That what we want to do is not prepare, fix what's inside to make it more comfortable. We want the zahir to be better so that people think that we're okay. Not what Allah wants from us. See, these are things that are so important. So anyway, the guest comes, we never give them dal or whatever. It's always got to be meat. And so we further compounding this. So these are the matters of halal. Also eating late at night. Those of you will note that are used to eating early on. If they eat later at night towards their bedtime, it's more difficult to wake up for Salat al-Fajr or Salat al-Layl. The next morning. Because you've weighed yourself down. So there's this idea that in the evenings, at least within food, Islamically, within traditions of Ahl al-Bayt, is your breakfast should be large, and then as you go through the day, your portions get smaller. What do? Small at the start, and then it gets bigger as we get to the end, because now I've got time. And then at the end of the night, and then I fall asleep. Whereas it should gradually taper off to allow a person to be more fresher throughout the day. So these are the matters of halal. Excessive consumption of meat, eating too much, all of this will affect a person. Come now to haram. Sometimes we inadvertently can consume haram not knowing. Someone tells us something is halal, we eat it. There is still a spiritual defect that's created. The same way that you pick up a piece of meat and you eat it not knowing that it's got salmonella or E. coli in it. Bacteria that will give you food poisoning. You can't say, oh, why did this happen? I didn't know it was there. I couldn't see it. That's not fair. No, it's bacteria. It lives there. Same with spiritual defect. When you eat something that has been told to you as halal, but it's actually haram, there is a spiritual defect that will be created within you. Though you won't get any guna for it. There's no sin. Because you didn't know. You didn't do it on purpose. But the effect is still there. It still causes a person to fall. And so over years and years of eating that sort of stuff, the mutashabihat, those things that we don't know whether halal or haram is fine. That will eventually lead to a person being affected negatively within themselves. Take for example, restaurants here. I'm shocked. I didn't know how, a lot of people survive. But when you have a chef that is Hindu, handling halal meat, this is not jaiz. There is a najasat that is present within the food. And we're consuming that. Or we're going into an area or into a restaurant that has alcohol in there. Fine, on your table, fiqh says, Sistani says, not on your table is fine. If you can avoid it, even better. But if it's not on your table, it's okay. If someone else is having it, it's not on your table, it's not a problem. But akhlaq says, just in that gathering, in that energy of people that have become that are people that consume that khamr, they consume that alcohol, their effect will be on you. These are the small, tiny things. We don't think about these, but these are the ones that have the impact on us. The largest impact. So now we go into a place. We don't know whether the chef is Muslim or Hindu, more likely to be Hindu or... No, not even Hindu, just a person that's not of Ahl Kitab. Yeah, we go in, we don't know if the person is Muslim or Ahl Kitab. But there's likely that the person could be anything other than Ahl Kitab. We consume that food, there's a problem. And they've handled the food. Yes, okay, Maraja have come out with different fatawi ways around it. I looked a lot, and none of them have any concrete thing around it. So now the question comes, but then how do we live here? It's very simple. Just make it at home. Yeah, like it sounds harsh. Yeah, but I really like the burger of that place. Their chef is great. Yes, I know, but there is something that is being transferred to you. Now, what's greater, the recognition of the Imam or the consumption of a burger? Yeah, this is one thing. Come now to the income that's used to buy that burger. Imam says to them, قَدْ مُلِيَتْ بُطُونُكُم مِّنَ الْحَرَامِ. Your stomachs have been filled with haram. Why? They were all eating halal. It's a Muslim country, Muslim nation. These are individuals that are known as pious people, pious by their standards. So Umar ibn Sa'ad, why is he selected to go to he wasn't a warrior, he wasn't a soldier, he wasn't anything great. Umar ibn Sa'ad was selected because the army of Sham obviously had hatred towards Ahlul Bayt anyway. Yeah, they said to Abu Abdullah, "Bughdan li abik," it's because we hated your father Ali. That's why we're killing you now. Yeah, so they already have this bughd of Ahlul Bayt, but they know that Ahlul Bayt akhlaq shines through at every point. So now what do we do for these individuals that have already consumed haram, that are of weak faith? How do we confuse them? Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad selects Umar ibn Sa'ad, the person that was considered and known in Kufa by their standards for his taqwa. By their standards, not our standards. Their standards. He was known for his taqwa and his piety in order to confuse the people. On one side is Hussein ibn Ali, on the other side is Umar ibn Sa'ad. Both are known for their taqwa. Yeah? Obviously we know that the Imam is the Imam. But these are people that have grown up in a society where they've hated Ahlul Bayt, where everything about Imam Ali was changed and the name of Muawiyah was written. So this is that whole society. So Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad selects Umar ibn Sa'ad for this reason. And then this consumption of haram, this lack of akhlaq, stops them from being able to recognize. It all compounds together. So these individuals that are consuming halal, but Imam still says to him, قَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونُكُم مِّنَ الْحَرَامِ. Your stomachs are filled with haram. Why? One, they're taking the money. Yeah? That was haram. To be there, to be able to fight against the Imam. Against Imam. So they've gone, they bought food with that money that was najis, that was haram, because it had come from a dhalim. And they go, they buy it, they consume that food. It has an effect in the person. For 40 days. Anytime you eat haram, for 40 days, no salah, no dua is accepted. That doesn't mean that you don't pray, by the way. No, you still have to pray. But it just doesn't go. It gets ticked off, okay, he still prayed. But there is a difference of praying and a difference of it being accepted. Yeah, there is a difference. And even outside of this discussion, the remits of this discussion, there will be people on the day of judgment that will come and their scroll of deeds will be given to them. And people will say, Ya Allah, there's something wrong here. I prayed all my life. But here is just written that in 1997 there was one rakat of namaz al-maghrib that I recited. Says, yes, you recited everything, but this is the only one rakat that we accepted. This is the one where you had huzur qalb. This is the one where you actually concentrated. Everywhere else you were thinking about your business, your wife, your children. You were thinking about where you left your keys. You were thinking about where you dropped your money. You were thinking about what you're going to do afterwards. This wasn't namaz. It says, we just accepted your one rakat. It's very important, this huzur qalb. Maybe for another day we can talk about it. So they go out, they buy this haram. Oh, they get the money, they buy halal, it turns to haram, they eat it. What about us? I'm paid to do a job for 1 hour. I find a loophole in the system that when my manager isn't looking 15 minutes, I can have a little cigarette break or a coffee break or something. The 15 minutes of the hour are haram because I lied. I contract and I tell someone that I can do this within 2 hours for you and I will charge you 2 hours. I finished the job in half an hour. I still charge them for the hour and a half. The hour and a half I lied about. Haram. I'm still charging for the 2 hours. قَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. I'm paid to do a job, or I have an item that I wish to sell. It has aib in it, it has nuqs in it, it has something wrong with it. But I know that if I splash some water under the chassis of the car, it will stop making that sound. And then by the time I've taken his money, he's gone, that's it, it's all over. So I do it and I sell it. Says, is there anything wrong? No, perfect, great. Nothing wrong, it's been so reliable. I'll take your money, thank you. There's your car. Haram. You lied. You lied. You go, you buy food. You consume that food. You buy it for your children. They consume the food. That's how we create the army of Yazid. This is why they say that when the Imam of our time comes, that the first to reject him will be the ones that said Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal all their lives. Why? Because although we said Al-Ajal, we weren't really concentrating on all the small items that surrounded us. All these small things, the food that we consume, how we get hold of our money, what is it that we do, with that money? We tell, I don't know if you guys have a social welfare system or something here, but in the UK people do this. That, they tell the government that, after a certain amount of time, if you work less than 16 hours in the week, then the government tops you up with money in order to bring you to a base level at least. There are many people that do this, what we call benefit fraud. So what they do, they tell the government that they're working 16 hours, but actually they're racking up 45 hours some other way and not telling the government. So they're lying about that. This is a kafir government, but you're lying about it. The action of lying itself is haram. That food comes, that money comes, you buy food with it, you eat it. That's how you create the army of Yazid. We can't hope to recognize the Imam of our time if we do not focus on the taharat of our food. If we do not focus on how much we eat. If we do not focus, we think, no, it's okay, that's fine. The person does it halal, it's fine. We can't be so lackadaisical. It's very, very important. One of the main effects you will find, those that are regular with their Salat al-Fajr, if you want a sort of a checklist, or sometimes, or one way of being able to check what you ate the night before was halal or haram, one of its main effects may be that you won't wake up for Salat al-Fajr the next day. Food has an effect straight away, as soon as it enters into the system. Be very aware where we go to eat. What is the environment within which we sit? Who is the chef? All of these things are very important. These things, they affect us over the long periods of time. They change and slowly, and food has been something that slowly but surely is entering into that, and that strength of ibadat is not there. That conviction in ibadat is not there. Now I can go to the gym and lift as heavy a weight as I want, and I can sit there and bench whatever I want and run for as long as I want. And I can do it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But the same person, you ask them to sit for 45 minutes of Dua Kumail, they're like, oh, my back. Yeah? You stay up the whole night playing PS4 or Xbox with no problem. You ask them to stay up for Laylatul Qadr, Allah. Now it's difficult. Now I can't do, oh my God. Why did they put the slow reciter on for Joshin Kabir? Allah. We've only got 45 left to go and they put the slow reciter on. Yeah? Because everything has become, we don't have that desire for worship. I don't have that desire for Salatul Layl. How can I be the Shia of Ali and not love Salatul Layl? When they caught his companion and they brought him to Muawiyah, Muawiyah said to him, Sufli Abul Hasan, tell me about Abul Hasan. One of the things that he said to Muawiyah, he said, Ashhadu billah ya Muawiyah, laqad ra'aytu fi ba'di mawaqifi, وقد أرخى الليل سدولا, وقد غارت النجوم, وهو واقف في محرابه قابض على لحيته يتململ تململ السليم ويبكي بكاء الواله الحزين وهو يقول يا دنيا غري غيري. He says, I swear by Allah, O Muawiyah, on a number of occasions when the night was passing, the stars had disappeared, I would find him وهو واقف في محرابه. Ali would be standing in the mihrab of ibadat, قابض على لحيته. He would be holding his beard, weeping and holding on to his beard. يتململ تململ السليم. His body shaking like a man bitten by a venomous snake. وهو يقول, in this state he would be crying out, يا دنيا غري غيري. Oh dunya, go deceive someone else, because Ali is not to be deceived. This is that Imam that we follow, that loved ibadat so much, that when on the 19th of Ramadan, when he's been taken back to the house, he looks towards the sun. He says, sun, bear witness that you never saw Ali sleep, but Ali always watched you rise. How can I not love Salatul Layl? How can I not love to recite Namaz Shab, Namaz Tahajjud? How can I not love to raise my hands in the middle of the night? Ilahi al-Af, Ilahi al-Af. Sayyid al-Shuhada comes to Zainab al-Kubra, Ukhayya Zainab, إِذَا قُمْتِ إِلَى نَافِلَةِ اللَّيْلِ أُذْكُرِينِ. My sister Zainab, when you stand for your Salatul Layl, remember your brother. Shab Ashur. Abu Abdullah's wasiyah to Zainab is one of Salatul Layl. Karbala was totally about this ubudiyah to Allah, this connection with Allah, this dedication to Allah. And those that were with Sayyid al-Shuhada were those that had annihilated themselves for the sake of Allah. And those on the other side, their stomachs filled with haram, allowed them to commit atrocities. Such atrocities that it brings tears to our eyes year in and year out. Such atrocities that they had no mercy in their hearts for the 6-month-old child of Abu Abdullah. Nor did they have any mercy for the 4-year-old daughter of Abi Abdullah. This daughter of Imam al-Hussein, you hear about her from the time of Asr of Ashura. Just before the time of Asr, she comes to her father and she begins to, as Abu Abdullah looks to leave, she comes running to her father. Ya abata istaslamta lil maut. Father, have you submitted yourself to death? And Abu Abdullah looks towards this 4-year-old child and he says to her, my daughter, how can the one that has no one by his side not submit to maut? Hussein is all alone now. She begins to weep. He says to her, my daughter, don't break my heart by weeping for me now. Says Sakina, the time for you to cry is coming. Sakina, when you see me lying on the plains of Karbala, my veins cut and the blood coming from them, my daughter, at that point, be patient. When they take you to from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, be patient. This daughter of Abi Abdullah, you hear there's so many musibah to recite along the way, from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham. You know, one of the ones that always has occurred to me, and I've searched the maqatil constantly, is that where is it that this girl actually drank water? Where is it that she actually drank water? You hear on Sham-e Ghariba, the water came. She was given the water. She ran towards the battlefield. They said, where are you going? She says, oh aunt, you said the youngest must drink first. My brother Ali Asghar is still thirsty. Oh, then along the way, They say when water was brought to her, she would run towards Sayyid Sajjad and she would begin to pour the water on the chains of Sayyid Sajjad, saying that the chains of my brother are heating under the sun. When you hear she reaches Kufa, that lady comes, she gives her water, says, but before you drink, Sayyida Zainab stop, says answer her du'as before you drink. After she answers the du'as, I don't find it in the maktal that the child drank. Throughout this whole journey, they say at one point through this journey, there was a point where the army camped. And the son of Ziljoshan, la'natullah alayh, he took the water skin and he began giving water to his army men. Sakina looking towards it, a 4-year-old child. Shamar looks towards her. He says to her, do you desire to drink the water? Do you want to drink? She says, I'm thirsty, I wish to drink the water. He says, you will not drink it until we've all drank. He goes round, you know the anticipation of a child. And especially a 4-year-old child. When you promise a child something and they anticipate and they wait for it, for those that are parents will know this. When you promise your child that you will get them something after you get back from work, how that child lives in anticipation until the moment that you walk in and they run towards you and they say, Baba, you promised her. You promised me that you would bring this thing. Now he says to her, you will drink after we have drank. The anticipation in the child builds. All the army drink. Now he turns to the daughter of Hussein. He says, do you still want to drink? She says, yes, I want to drink. He turns the bag of water and empties it upon the earth. This child, you know what the Maktab said? She ran over to where that water was and Sakina placed her cheek on the wet earth. Such madlumiyat of this child, that she's having to view the head of her father on a spear and constantly looking towards it, and not just looking towards it, but seeing people stone the head of her father, seeing Yazid smack his stick against the lips of her father. That night in that prison, when she goes to sleep, sees Abu Abdullah in her dream. She wakes up, she begins to cry loudly. They say, what will make the girl stop crying? They say, if maybe the head of her father is brought to her. She remembers her father too much. They say the head was brought. This child from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, has seen her father's head on a spear. She has seen the people of Sham and Kufa stone it, throw pieces of burning wood at it. She looks towards the head, runs towards it, she takes the head of her father, and now the child in her holds their father's hands. In her small hands she begins her marthiya. Abata man alladhi aytamani ala sighar sinni. Abata man alladhi qata'a waridak. Abata, Father, tell me who orphaned me at such a young age. Father, tell me who cut the veins of your neck. Father, tell me who covered your face and beard in your blood. Father, after you all we can say is wa ghurbata. Father, after you the women were taken prisoner. Father, after you many musibah befell us. She begins talking to her. Father, every time we cried for you, they would slap us. But oh Father, no one was slapped more than my auntie Zainab. Every time they would wish to slap us, Zainab would stand in front and say, don't slap the children of Hussein, slap Zainab instead. The child begins telling her father all her problems, all the difficulties. She says, they say she lay down. She placed her lips on the lips of her father. She began whispering to her father. A voice was heard. فَنَادَى إِلَى الرَّأْسِ. A voice came from the head. إِلَيَّ إِلَيَّ فَأَنَا لَكَ بِالْإِنْتِظَارِ. Come to me, oh my daughter, for I am waiting for you. Now when the morning dawns, Sajjad goes towards the child, finds the head of Abi Abdullah on one side, the child on the other. Sajjad goes forward to wake his sister. As he touches Sakina, he cries out, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, Ya Allah, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, for the sake of what moment? You heard that Sajjad found his sister. But have we ever thought, how does a man who's shackled, how does a man who's imprisoned bury his sister? Years later they say an alim saw in his dream that this daughter of Abu Abdullah came and she said, Alim, my grave is filling with water, move my body. He says, I saw the dream for 3 days. On the 3rd day I realized that this must be a message. He says, I sent my daughters and the women folk to go and dig up the grave of Sakina and move her body to where it is lying now. Says that I sent my daughters, they came back. My daughters were weeping and crying as they came back. Said, Father, you told us that Sakina was madhluma. Father, you told us she was oppressed. Father, you told us she was ghareeb. Father, you told us that Sajjad buried her when he was a prisoner. But Father, you never told us that when he buried her, her ropes are still tied to her body. Ya Allah, for the sake of the madhlumiyat of this child, Ya Allah, those that are ill, give them shifa'ah. Ya Allah, those that are in debt, clear their debts. Ya Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Ya Allah, those that have brought hajat, those that have brought difficulties, sorrows, they have problems in their life. Ya Allah, for the sake of this daughter of Abi Abdullah, for the sake of that love that existed between this father and daughter, Ya Allah, fulfill their hajat, remove their difficulties, remove the sorrows from their lives. Ya Allah, destroy the enemies of tashayyu around the world. Ya Allah, keep our ulama and our maraji at the head of our institutions. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadhirin, his true awaiters. For the acceptance of these du'as and any other du'as that the brothers and sisters have brought, please recite 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.